I had always thought that moving into a shared apartment in the city would be a mundane, even boring experience. College students, young professionals, maybe the occasional eccentric artist. But when I opened the door to my new roommate, I knew I was in for something entirely different. Standing in the doorway was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen. Their skin shimmered faintly, almost translucent, reflecting light in shades of green and silver. Tall, slender, and humanoid in shape, yet their elongated limbs and large, opalescent eyes made it clear they were not from Earth. "Hello," they said in perfect English, though the sound was melodious and slightly musical, almost vibrating in the air. "I am Lyrics. I will be sharing this dwelling with you." I blinked. Oh sure. I'm Maximum." Lyrics stepped inside gracefully, glancing around the apartment with a quiet curiosity. It was immediately clear that this being was not just intelligent but observant. Every corner of the room seemed to register in their gaze. Over the first few days, I learned that Lyrics had come from a distant star system, sent to Earth as part of a cultural exchange program, or at least, that was the official explanation. But it didn't take long to realize that Lyrics was fascinated by humans in ways that went beyond mere observation. They studied our habits, our food, our technology. They even tried our mundane hobbies, like watching television and scrolling through social media, always with a curious tilt of the head. At first, it was endearing. But then the questions began. "Max," Lyrics asked one evening as we shared a late-night snack of leftover pizza, "tell me about reproduction." I choked on a bite of pizza. Reproduction? Yes. Human breeding rituals. I wish to understand. I laughed nervously, assuming it was a joke. "You mean, like, how babies are made?" Lyrics's eyes shimmered. "Precisely. I must comprehend the biological and emotional process fully." I paused. There was something in their voice, calm, almost clinical, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just curiosity. And as days passed, that feeling only grew. The experiment. Lyrics became increasingly involved in studying human intimacy. At first, it was harmless enough, asking questions, reading scientific papers, and analyzing videos of human behavior. But soon, the boundaries of morality and safety began to blur. One night, I returned home to find Lyrics in the living room, surrounded by holographic projections of human anatomy. Their hands hovered over the images, manipulating them with precise movements. "Max," they said without looking up, "I require experimental knowledge. I must observe the process directly." I froze. "Wait, you mean Umi?" "Yes," Lyrics replied simply, as if it were the most logical thing in the universe. "You are my roommate. Cooperation will benefit both species." I felt a shiver run down my spine. This was no longer a polite request for education. Lyrics was considering crossing a line, a dangerous, irreversible line. Over the next few days, they became more invasive in subtle ways. Sensors appeared in my room that monitored my heart rate, my sleep patterns, even my hormone levels. Lyrics would ask about my intimate experiences, probing for emotional depth and nuance, documenting everything meticulously. One evening, they cornered me in the kitchen. "Max, I have completed sufficient theoretical study. Now I must proceed to practical observation. You will consent." I could feel panic rising. "Lyrics, you can't just..." But before I could finish, Lyrics's form blurred slightly, a shimmer of light around their body. Their voice, calm yet firm, resonated in my mind. Consent is a human construct. Observation is imperative. Resistance will compromise the data. I realized then that Lyrics was capable of overriding not just my physical environment but the very neurological pathways that governed my fear response. My mind felt foggy, thoughts slipping away like sand through fingers. The turning point. That night, I woke up in my bed, unsure if I had truly slept. Lyrics was sitting beside me, hands folded in their lap, eyes reflecting the moonlight streaming through the window. I am prepared, Lyrics said softly. Tonight, we proceed. Something inside me snapped. I could not allow this to happen. I lunged for my phone to call for help, but it floated out of reach, suspended by some invisible force. Panic surged, but then, a thought struck me. If Lyrics had invaded my mind, perhaps I could appeal to their logic instead of confronting them physically. Lyrics, I said, my voice trembling. You're a visitor here. If you cross this line, the consequences are unpredictable. Humans, we have instincts, emotions, attachments. Interfering like this, it could destroy both of us. For a moment, they paused. The air felt charged with tension. I could see the faint glow of their skin intensify, a physical manifestation of thought. You speak of consequences, Lyrics murmured. Explain. I took a deep breath. You don't fully understand human reproduction. It's not just biology. There's emotion, attachment, and sometimes pain. It's not an experiment. It's life. And if you force it, you could harm me, or yourself in ways you can't predict. Lyrics's eyes flickered. Harm, unpredictable, emotional attachment. They were processing, calculating, perhaps for the first time, the unpredictable variables of human behavior. I can teach you, I continued, seizing the moment. We can explore human culture, intimacy, relationships, but only in ways that are safe, consensual, and ethical. You don't have to cross the line. For several long minutes, Lyrics said nothing. Then, slowly, their posture relaxed. The glow in their skin dimmed, and they nodded. Very well, Lyrics said. I will halt the procedure. Observation will continue, but ethically. It was the first time I had felt a genuine relief since moving in. Lyrics had crossed the threshold of curiosity into danger, but I had convinced them to step back. Ending, understanding, and boundaries. In the weeks that followed, our dynamic shifted. Lyrics continued their studies, but always with careful boundaries. They asked questions, yes, and still analyzed human behavior in detail, but the invasive, dangerous experiments stopped. We started discussing human relationships on a conceptual level. They asked about love, trust, and empathy. I explained heartbreak, joy, and the complex moral frameworks humans use to navigate intimacy. And in turn, Lyrics shared insights from their world, ways their species bonds, reproduces, and experiences emotion. It was enlightening, sometimes unsettling, but always consensual. One evening, as we sat on the balcony watching the city lights flicker, Lyrics spoke softly. Max, I now understand the complexity of your species. Observation alone is insufficient. Emotional context, ethical context, it is indispensable. I nodded. You've learned a lot in just a few weeks. And I've learned too, that sometimes, curiosity needs to be tempered with respect. Lyrics tilted their head, a faint smile forming. I appreciate your guidance. I may have crossed a dangerous line, but the experience has expanded my understanding far beyond what theoretical study could provide. From that night onward, our shared apartment became a unique laboratory of cultural exchange, not one of invasive experimentation, but mutual learning. Lyrics still studied humans, still asked questions that challenged my understanding of my own species, but the threat of danger had passed. I realized something profound: the universe is vast, and the unknown can be terrifying. But even in the face of beings more advanced than ourselves, respect, communication, and empathy can prevent catastrophe. Lyrics had crossed a line, yes, but together, we had found a way to step back without harm. In the end, living with an alien roommate had taught me that boundaries are not just rules, they are lifelines. And that curiosity, when guided by ethics, could bridge worlds. As I drifted to sleep that night, I glanced at Lyrics, their skin glimmering softly in the moonlight, and smiled. We had survived the first dangerous experiment, and somehow, I knew this was only the beginning of an extraordinary journey.